Well, hello there. My name is Mike Squires, and this is the Couchers Podcast with episode number 204. Happy New Year. It's our first episode of 2022, 2022, or 2020 Part 2. Hopefully not. Let's hope not. My guest this episode is Justin Motander Jones, a guitar builder out of San Diego, who is making very cool, like retro cool, uh, atomic era. What do you call that? Mid-century modern guitar shapes. You'll see he built this short scale bass that's right back here. That sucker just showed up at my house one day last month. I was flabbergasted. I'm a big fan. We talk about how we met, and another collaboration that we worked on for a charity that's an upcoming charity video that's to be released hopefully in the next month. It's done. The audio is done. The video should be done soon. But Justin, heard about this thing that I was doing and just jumped right in and sent a guitar and said, use it in the video and then have them auction it off. And it was just like incredibly generous. So cool. And then again, followed up his generosity with sending me this thing. And even if he hadn't sent me a bass, my intention was to have him on the podcast this month. I'm not sure if it'll work out or not. I'm not the best at scheduling, but the idea is, similar to Drummer Awareness Month, which a lot of you guys know about, Drummer Awareness Month. I wanted to do we're not going to have a NAMM again this year, so maybe I can feature, builders, creators, this kind of thing. Do some NAMM, oriented things. So we'll see. Maybe I'll try to do a live stream with some builders and see if I can make that happen. Shoot me a message. If you think that's a good idea, let me know. Anyway, please go visit Motander Guitars. Follow them on Instagram. I think they're making really cool stuff. Andrew McKegg's got a very cool baritone guitar that Justin built. And they're using what he called urban timber, which is a wood that is being cut down within the city limits of San Diego and then rescued. Essentially, it's kind of like rescue lumber, wood that would otherwise go into a landfill somewhere if someone didn't come along and say, hey, that's perfectly good, let's do some cool shit with it. So he's doing very cool stuff. You should support him, especially if you like. Look at that thing. Look at this guy. Look at that. Have you seen anything cooler? It's the coolest. That thing is made out of some fancy willow wood. It's amazing. All right, listen. Thank you for an awesome 2021. 2021 was so great. 2022, I don't know. We'll see. I have a great attitude about it. I want to keep bringing interesting podcasts to you guys. Hopefully, continue making interesting cover song videos. I'm going to start putting some out that I don't appear in. Maybe that's the missing link for them to catch fire. Like if I'm not in it and one of them blows up, then we know I'll never be in one again. If I put a handful out with me not in them and there's no difference, then I'll pick and choose the ones I want to be in. And otherwise, I'll just be kind of putting these different bands together. So I'm really looking forward to 2022 and hopefully playing some live music again, I want to thank everyone who supports in all the ways that they can support, just by listening, watching, sharing, and liking, and all of that bullshit. Just the it feels tedious to ask people to do that, but it really does help. And so thank you for doing it, and for enduring my asking. Thank you for supporting on Patreon. It's incredible. I can't even believe that people will support me in that way, but thank you so much. It means a lot, and it really lightens the burden of me doing this without that help. So thank you, thank you, thank you. That's at patreon.com/couchriffs. It's the only place you can download the audio of the cover songs. Also, thank you to my amazing sponsor, Variety Coffee Roasters. Go check out varietycoffeeroasters.com, at Variety Coffee Roasters on the social media. Go check out their subscription service, okay? I think all the coffee mugs ended up in their cafes. So if you're in New York, go pick up a mug at one of the cafes. Otherwise, go check out their subscription service. They'll ask you how you like to how do you prepare your coffee? What are you into? How often do you want it? And then you put in your credit card and boom, it's done. 1, 2, 3, go. I drink Variety Coffee Roasters every morning. I wouldn't steer you in the direction that I wouldn't go myself. So thank you, Variety Coffee Roasters, for your support. You guys are fucking awesome. All right. We're going to get into the episode. Don't forget the golden rule. Still, new year, same rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. It's really easy. So easy. Did you see the countdown?
I did.
I should have had some like party thing, like the little thing you pull and the confetti comes out. Because it's New Year's Eve.
Sure is.
I like your shirt.
I knew you would. I had to put one on with no sawdust on it.
Is it hard to come by those these days?
No, if I've been working, it's going to be dusty.
Right. You know, you probably have heard me blabber on about this, but I didn't really know that a person could build a guitar before. I'm a little dim, but this was also before the internet.
Yeah.
In like 1997 or 98, maybe 98, I was turned on to Cole's guitars by a friend up in Seattle named Harris Thurmond, who's owned a bunch of his guitars. And I bought my very first Cole from him and found a used one in Portland. And that was my introduction to handmade, like a lot of big company guitars. Some of them are handmade. Yeah. There are things about them that are handmade, but that was my introduction to boutique guitars, I guess, which that passion has never cooled off for me.
Yeah. Well, it caught me in a big way. I met Saul at NAMM just before I started doing any building. Nicest guy. He's spent a bunch of time down here. The first Coles were built down the street here somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Superstar, as far as I'm concerned. One of the godfathers.
Yeah. What did, yeah. he's every luthier's favorite uncle. I think Brian Nutter said that on your show. Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So you and I met almost 2 years ago at NAMM, the last NAMM.
Yeah, before everything changed.
Right, everything, and as it continues to change. Yeah. And we actually met at Nutter's stand,
we
right?
Did, yeah. You were talking with Jason Verlinde, and I was like, I know those voices. I listen to those guys. Yeah.
I bet, I feel like it was like there was a whole crew there. I feel like
Adam was there.
I feel like, yeah.
And I can't remember who else was around. My buddy Dan was there. We know Adam a little bit from being in town.
Yeah. It was a real meeting of the minds. Yeah.
So I knew about your solo album before everybody else did. So.
You were spilling all the beans, then. Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just kind of getting the idea together at that point. And then I followed through on it. It was a terrible idea. It's not, unfortunately, not my worst idea.
It's great. I love it.
I'm about to unleash. 2021 was a very productive year for me, even though December wasn't that productive. Um, Probably the most productive year of my life as far as this stuff goes. So I'm about to put out a crazy video that you were. So I'll give people the sort of the backstory here. We met at NAMM and stayed in touch. Started following each other on Instagram. Um, I love this. I saw some of the guitar versions of this shape that you're making, and I was just like, God, that is sick. It's just yeah, it's great. And you were the coolest. I don't even know how how it came to pass, but you were like, let me build a guitar and use it in the video, and then they can auction it
Yeah, well,
off.
saying nice things about me on the internet will might get you a guitar, especially if you don't need any creative control. So I've been looking to build you something for a while, and you weren't going to let me do it without paying you, I think. And so I said, hey, just give this away. And so I made that one to be something I thought you'd be into. It
It
had
was
the
so cool.
that one was a piece of Doug fir that I flame. It was either Doug fir or pine that I flame torched, so it had a really cool pattern in it, just from the wood grain. And I
Yeah.
knew that
And
was
there are pictures of that on your website.
there are, yeah. And that one I think is nice and colorblind friendly. So I thought that would be cool for you.
That's
And
very
the
considerate
the
of
little
you.
teeny shark fin inlays, I thought you'd be into that too.
Super
Yeah.
duper.
And so yeah, we were able to raise some money with that thing, which was pretty cool for roadie relief.
So cool. And yeah, I'm just sort of like shoring up the details. The song that I used it on, um fuck it, I'll just go ahead and talk about it. I've talked about it on Golden Shower Hits, but like the word's not getting around over there. But the song is Starship Trooper by Yes, and it is fucking bananas. If For people listening who don't know what Starship Trooper is, it is a 10-minute long prog rock opus, epic, you know, and there are 16 or 17 people in the video, many well-known names from very well-known bands from the last 4 decades. It's awesome. It is fucking awesome. And I'm really stoked about it.
Yeah, I've been excited for a while, so we'll get this done, get it out.
Um, I think the way that I'm not sure how we will best suit it to support roadie relief, but I think that the story will be maybe we'll either open up some slots for people to that they can buy their way into the video. So,
That's
you
awesome.
want to be in a video with with these guys, you donate money to roadie relief. I don't, for anyone who's like, hey, this sounds fishy, like I don't touch it. Like I don't want anything to do with that. This is for roadie relief. So donate money to roadie relief. They send me your name and then you can sing or play in the video. I'll cut you in performing alongside all these other folks. So pretty rad. Or maybe it'll be the highest donor, maybe auctioned or something. But yeah, pretty exciting. But I can't thank you enough for support, like just jumping right in and supporting that. And then out of the fucking blue, you're like, hey, send me your address. I'm like, yeah, sure, cool. I thought like, I know plenty of people who build guitars. They do all kinds of other woodwork. I have a buddy that works for another builder, and he made me this really nice cutting board, and and I was like, oh yeah, cool. Like I got something show. I went and picked it up, and I was like, that's a guitar in there. Because that's a big cutting board or something.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know. So I was like, all right, well, we got home. It was really cold here. I got home. I went to open the box, and my wife was like, let me film you. And so there's a video of me opening this box,
yeah,
right? And I was blown away because it's this killer. It is that shape, and it's a short scale bass, which I end up playing a lot more bass now.
yeah,
So is it there was a lot of consideration
yeah.
that went into all
So
of this
I knew
stuff,
you
and I
had
can't even tell you thank you
I knew
enough.
you had your Marvin, and I knew you had a lot of basses. I hadn't seen a short scale, so I thought that would, and those can do a lot of cool recording things. Um, and and I knew you liked that shape, and I had that killer piece of willow that's on the top. Uh, and
It's right here.
there's not much of that I've seen on guitars or really anything. I don't think it's a commercial species, but we get this cool urban timber. So that's a piece of all that wood is from around here except the neck and the fretboard. So the two body woods. And yeah, it was cool. And I wanted you to have something for a while. So, thanks for being so supportive of this hobby that I spend all my time on. and, you know,
I think you're making really cool guitars. I want to talk about. I want to ask you very specific questions,
uh
a
huh.
few, and then of course we'll wander around a bunch like as we always do. But I want to know how you got into building guitars, what inspired you, and also I see that you use that term that I see on your posts and on your website, urban timber,
Yeah.
and when I think what could that mean? That could mean like reclaimed, but it doesn't sound like reclaimed. It sounds like wood that grows in the parks or in the city or in people's yards or something. And so I'd love to hear you talk about that also.
Yeah, for sure. So tackle that first. My buddy Dan, who builds guitars with me in my parents' backyard, he's got his own thing. It's Wooden Dan with 2 zeros on Instagram, um,
Uh-huh.
and he's doing a lot of volunteer work with an organization called Lumber Cycle here. And they're
Okay.
taking. They will find out that somebody's taking trees out of a park. They have to come down for whatever reason, and they might go to a landfill if they don't go somewhere else. So those trees are getting diverted from the landfill, uh, put in a kiln, dried out, and then milled down to lumber. And so we're getting a lot of that stuff. I got piles of it in my garage, and people can contact Lumber Cycle here. And there's some other places that do similar work in LA and probably around the country.
So lumber cycle mills it all.
Yeah, they mill it. My buddy Dan helps them out and to do that. It's a nonprofit, and they mill it, they dry it, and then they cut it down either to dimensional lumber or slabs. And so yeah, they're trees that were growing around town, and
Wow.
San Diego, we have great soil here, and we have temperate climate. So if you can put water on it, it will grow. So we get lots of really cool exotics and some cool native trees like that willow and some sycamore, uh, and yeah, we get a lot of cool stuff here that grows. And Taylor's using some of the ash that is in that body. Taylor is going to various places around and sourcing that for their urban ash guitars. So
Huh.
so that's they're a big player that's kind of stepping into that a little bit. So they're very they're conservation minded there, and so it's a cool thing. It's taking stuff that would be landfill and putting it out into the world so people can build stuff out of it.
That's super
Yeah.
cool. Is it your intention to always stay focused on that stuff that has less environmental impact?
I prefer to use stuff that doesn't, for a couple reasons. One is it's great that it's local. It's from here. I like to have some local design elements in the thing, and I try to name the guitars after local things.
Yeah,
The
it's cool.
influences are. I try to stick with kind of Southern California mid-century kind of things to do. So it's cool that the wood's from here. I I don't use it for everything. So the fretboards and stuff. There is some cool
Yeah, I was gonna
fretboard wood
ask if
here.
there's is there?
Yeah, so I got this one here. This is she oak. This grows locally, and it's hard to see there on the camera, but there's a lot of figure on that. That's
And
very
it's
cool.
and it's hard enough that it can
Yeah, I think people get a little crazy about how hard wood needs to be for a fingerboard. I don't think everything has to be ebony. That's just what
right.
people want to buy. But yeah, this she oak is hard. It wreaks havoc on sandpaper and on cutting tools. It is plenty hard.
Wow.
So
That's amazing. I love
yeah.
that.
So
So wait a minute. So if I guess you're what is the neck wood on that instrument that you just held up?
this one I think is cherry. Yeah, it's cherry. So that's just commercial
Yeah.
lumber, but it's still a North American species. There's plenty of it. It's grown responsibly. So that
Didn't have to travel halfway around the world in a
exactly. Yeah,
container.
yeah.
Right.
So I like that. The other thing I like about using the urban timber is you've got that piece of a willow over there. It's spectacular, and
So
also
cool.
I have that. Dan and I have most of that tree. so
Wow.
there's not. I've built three guitars out of it. He's built one. So it's also not something everybody has, and that you're going to see all over, right? So
Right.
if I built that out of a flame maple piece, right, everybody can go buy that, can get that, and see that every day. So
Sure.
it's really pretty wood. It's really high quality wood, and it's different, right? It's not the same handful of commercial species everybody gets their hands on, right? Which is
Right.
beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's cool to have other stuff.
I've asked a few people about this, and there's, it's always it's weird because I see people building guitars out of alternative, materials. Um, Electrical Guitar Company is
Hmm.
one, and I think they're making really cool stuff and doing the Travis Beans. They have wood bodies, most of them though. There's a guy up in Northern California that's, is every week there's a new video of him with some acrylic guitar with like crayons or fucking Star Wars figures or
Yeah.
whatever. And I think all those are cool. That maybe is a little more novelty or something. But I guess what do I know? I
Hmm.
was into my Dan Armstrong. I liked that. Uh, have you have you ever considered alternative materials as well?
A lot of them take alternative tools, and I'm less
Right.
well stocked on that, right? So I have, I could get access to a mill, but I don't have, the a CNC that'll do big aluminum parts, or
Yeah.
cast a nice clean piece of acrylic. Uh,
Right.
and I'd certainly use that. What's the paper fingerboard stuff?
Oh,
Yeah,
fiber.
Rich light.
Uh,
Rich light. I'd
yeah.
use that stuff, particularly if they made it in cool colors. I think they try too hard to make it look like wood. I'd rather have it look like something completely bonkers and different, and then
Right.
let
Why not?
let artists play with it, and do something cool. So a lot of it's meant to look like wood, and I'd rather use wood.
I feel like once every 3 years, on a pretty solid cycle for the last 20 years, I've become fascinated with graphite
Hmm.
necks,
I've never played one.
and
Yeah.
I've never played one either.
Yeah, I think it seems like it might get over some when I've played aluminum necks. The just the neck feeling cold is weird.
Yeah.
It's it's a simple thing, but that's it just
And what
doesn't
I didn't
feel right.
realize is that aluminum flexes.
Mm,
Did you know that?
yeah, yeah. I guess they're hollowed out pretty good usually, right? For
I
weight.
didn't know it flexed. I just thought it's rigid,
Yeah,
right? It's not porous. It's way more rigid than steel. It doesn't, it doesn't flex. It'll break if under pressure. But yeah, they at a temperature, it flexes in temperature. Who knew?
yeah. I know. Yeah, it's pretty stable, but yeah, anything will, any metals will by some amount.
Someone needs to talk to metal about that. I was under the wrong impression.
Yeah.
Have you lived in San Diego your whole life?
I went to school in the Bay Area, but other than that, I've been here the whole time. Yeah.
When you say school, you mean
Yeah.
college? Did you go to where'd you go up
I was
there?
at Berkeley.
Berkeley. Did you study something fancy?
Yeah. I have a physics degree, more or less.
Is that
Yeah.
right? That's a that's pretty impressive.
It'll do.
What?
Yeah.
Right. uh, what do you and how have you used that degree to your
I
advantage?
am an
Have
optical
you?
engineer. Have been for my career. So
Optical
right now I'm
engineer.
building lasers.
Are they like lasers for guidance systems, that kind of thing?
Lasers for all kinds of things.
Yeah. Frickin' lasers,
Yes.
man. You work with
Hmm.
lasers. What is the craziest thing that you've learned about lasers? That can you share? Are you gonna get killed if you share anything?
I
Your work's not gonna like come. You're not gonna like brake lines are gonna go out on the.
No, I mean I don't have too much cool stuff to share. A laser is essentially an amplifier and feedback, right? So it's
But with light
yeah, with light.
specifically.
So there's a place you dump a bunch of electricity into, and you create a cavity. So the same as you're controlling feedback the same way you would with a guitar and an amplifier. So you get a little
Right.
closer to the amp, you get a little further away from the amp, you find that sweet spot. That's exactly what we're doing with to create a laser beam, and then it's just moving the photons around.
Here's a crazy thing. Uh, to me, to you, you're smart, so it's not that crazy to you. Uh, you hear people use lasers for all kinds of shit.
Hmm.
When I was a kid, I thought lasers were just for laser guns that were make believe, right? But people get laser treatments on their skin.
Yeah,
People get their tattoos lasered off. People, I mean, I think that sensors on cars are a form of lasers, are they? Or are they
there are
not?
laser based systems. Yeah, a lot of self driving cars use a lidar system, so it sends out a laser beam and measures it coming back. It tells you how far away stuff is.
So it's a pretty deep technology.
Yeah, well, you've got a whole spectrum of light also. So you've got everything from UV to extreme long infrared. So they're all good for different things.
Is it driving you crazy that I'm asking you about work?
No, it's fine.
Because it's fucking
Yeah.
fascinating. Uh, why do different light focuses like how do we figure that out? Like do they point them all at frogs?
Probably on some
And
level,
like,
something like that. Yeah.
probably they do,
Yeah.
right? It's
So you
terrible.
create some small sample and you shine light through it. And you see what colors get through. So when we're talking about spectrum, we're talking about color.
Right.
And
You can't. I couldn't have that job. I couldn't do that job.
I, yeah.
Cause I'm colorblind. They'd be like, Squires, give me
A lot of what,
the blue light.
well, a lot of the spectrum none of us
Uh,
can see, so it wouldn't matter.
right. Have you seen that they're doing this with sound now?
No.
Fuck yeah. They can take sound and focus it in to project into a very specific
Hmm.
space. I'll send you the link.
Sounds cool.
Um, it's this German company. They've developed this technology. There's a speaker cabinet. It's got like 8, 10 speakers in
Mm-hmm.
it, and you could do a surround sound mix, or it can be like a narrative in 12 different
Hmm.
languages, and you can focus the speakers to different spots on
Right.
the floor,
Okay.
and if you step a couple of feet in either direction,
Mm-hmm.
nada.
Wow.
9.
Yeah, all from the
No.
same cabinet. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah.
insane? Technology, man. It's the age of Star
Sure
Trek.
is.
So how long did you go to school to be a laser genius?
Not a laser genius, laser engineer.
Okay.
I have
Potato
yeah,
potato.
yeah. So no, I just have an undergraduate physics degree, and then I went and worked in industry, and and I've been doing that for 11 years and 12 years, and made a career of it so far.
Has How did COVID affect your ability to work?
We were declared essential, and I
Oh,
worked pretty much continuously through that in the lab. They
yeah.
definitely limited it to just people that had to be in the facility. For a while, I was working. We were splitting shifts, and I was working nights. And so
Oof.
we split up and tried to limit people around in the building, and are only just starting to kind of come back to fully normal.
Do you guys have military contracts?
Yeah.
Seems like any technology, you get a military. I'd love a military contract. I bet it pays pretty good. I have an idea too. I have an idea. I'm going to try and get that government money, man. I got to get it. I'm getting old, man. I'm getting old. Did you play guitar uh, as when you were a kid?
Yeah, I started playing at 11 or 12.
You
Yeah.
did. What were you into?
I started out, just I think when I started hearing the Beatles and the Who and stuff from my dad, that's when I got real into it, and
Right.
wanted to do that, and got an acoustic guitar and messed with it till I could get an electric guitar. That was it.
How hard was it for you to tolerate the acoustic guitar while you were yearning for an electric guitar?
Not too bad. You can still learn a lot, right? But it's
There's
definitely what I
something about the
wanted very quickly,
excitement.
right? Yeah.
There's something about the excitement of an electric guitar
Hmm.
and the amp, and you know,
Yeah,
you can't make an acoustic guitar feedback.
yeah. You can't. Just an E chord sounds incredible on an electric guitar. Everybody should do that at least, right? If that won't
I
hook you,
think
what
so,
what
man.
can?
Like really loud.
Yeah.
Or even a G chord if you could just and thumb
Hmm.
the low G,
Yeah.
because anyone can do that. If you can get your hand around it and then just boom,
Yeah.
come on,
Yeah.
through a wide open amplifier. It's one of the most incredible feelings I've ever known.
for sure.
Did you play in bands
I
when you
never
were
did.
in school?
I was taking school really seriously, and
Yeah.
and doing that, and just, and also I think I was going through a phase where I pretty much only listened to old blues records, and there weren't people around that were into that, you know, in a
Right.
way that I was gonna gig as a teenager, spending all my time doing homework. Uh,
Right.
I never really have done that. It's been couch riffing mostly, right? And playing and having fun with it.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like you wanted to build a guitar back then, or did you?
Yeah, I think it was always in my mind that it could be done, and then you'd go and price it out and find out it's expensive and and hard, and you don't
Right.
have the tools, and so it didn't it's not a bug that came back till later.
What was your what was your first electric guitar that you
I
had?
had a '90s Squire that back when those were not so great. I think they're much better now, but that
Made
was
in
not a good
Korea?
guitar.
Right. Made in Korea, Squire?
Oh, that I don't know. I don't know where those were made. They weren't made all that well,
Right.
and the neck would warp if it was left in the sun for a few minutes. They weren't great.
Right.
And then I got a BC Rich, which was
Yeah, you
super
did.
cool. Yeah,
Which one?
I had a NJ series bitch with a Kaler in
Oh
red.
God, that is so killer.
Yeah, it was pretty great. Uh,
You weren't playing old timey blues on that
for a
thing.
while, then I got my hands on a Strat,
Yeah.
but a nicer Strat. But that was, but yeah, for a while, you, use what you have.
How did you come into having the BC Rich?
Uh, you know, I
What a strange guitar to acquire in the 90s.
uh, I went into a shop and they had them. I think at that point, my buddy Dan was already working in a guitar shop and was really into old ones, and
Wooden
those
Dan?
were around. Yeah, those were around, and he may have had one by then or not. I don't know, but the old handmade ones are such great instruments. But I went in at the right time, and somebody was willing to sell me that bolt neck NJ series for $150.
Oh.
So I was all over that.
Do you still have it?
Don't. I don't
Oh.
have that one. I do have an '84. I do have an '84 bitch though.
Oh,
Yeah, with a little
wow.
bit of quilt on it and the gold Kaler. Yeah. So I've got one of the last year before they sold. It's a killer
Wait,
guitar.
wait, wait, wait. Hold that guitar up for me again. Let me see the neck heel.
What
Is
neck
this where
heel?
you got the idea?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
These are great.
I gotta say though, I think yours is smoother.
It might be, but this actually has good fret access. That's right. I'm up here on 19. If you look at that ranchita, I think it's smooth, but you can't really get above 15 on it. But
There's no money up there anyway. That's what I hear at least. I wouldn't know.
yeah, me either. But it looks cool
uh,
and it feels great.
I love the BC Rich Warlock. I don't care what anyone says. I think I think all of the BC Rich guitars were cool.
Yeah.
I was into all of them. And in the 90s all the death metal guys were 80s and 90s the death metal guys were playing them. It was like
Hmm.
some guys are playing Jacksons, but really the BC Rich was where it was at.
Yeah.
Um oh, the Warlock though, and the Warlock bass. That's the one.
Yeah, I
The
like
Warlock
Mox
voices.
a lot. Mox and bitches.
So good.
Yeah, and the
Was
pre-84 ones are really fantastic. You know that they're as well made as anything. And people dog all the weird electronics, and they are weird, and there is a lot of spaghetti in there. But the guys that made these really knew what they were doing, and there's some videos of those guys hammering out necks with knives and hammers in minutes. It's amazing stuff. You know, and so they had
really?
these craftsmen from Mexico that built classical guitars, and they, you know, some of those guys came up to LA and they were building these things, and they really knew what they were doing. They had some cool guys, you know, that were here and helping them, and artists and stuff, and you know, they're great. They really are very well made, very smooth,
Wow.
thin. You know, for a giant piece of maple, they're still pretty light because they're so thin. Uh, yeah, they're really
W-
cool
Uh,
guitars.
were the is the BC Rich guitar sort of aesthetic? Was that your gateway into not like, you know, we have the Les Paul, the Telecaster, the Stratocaster,
Yeah,
and and I suppose the SG,
yeah.
right? Those are kind of like the four big big
Mm-hmm.
players.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, as I was, you know, kind of had been working for a few years and was kind of getting into looking at guitars again and buying guitars again. You know, I was looking for something other than those four, right?
Yeah.
You know, and looking at cool catalog guitars and, you know, some of the early boutique reproduction stuff, and really just liking a lot of it. So the BC Rich is part of it. Also, you know, the old airlines, right?
Yeah.
A lot of Japanese guitars. So you know, the cheap '60s guitars are, you know, they're wacky. They got points. They got too many pickups. They got all kinds of weird stuff, right? And so that was really a place to start. And then, you know, the other thing, one of the things that got me into building was that I couldn't just go. I had some really bad tendonitis in my right arm,
Oh,
so I couldn't just go pick up any guitar and play it. I could play Strats okay and things that had a heavy arm bevel, like an old SG, but I couldn't just go buy guitars off the rack and play them because the sharp edge on a
probably
Les
not going to be
Paul.
rocking a
It,
335.
you know what? The bigger guitars are okay because my arm
Oh,
is up here, so acoustics don't bother me too much. But like a Les Paul, I couldn't play for. It could be the best Les Paul in the world. I wouldn't be able to play it for more than 10 or 15 minutes. So it was,
right.
hey, you know, do something. You know, buy a telly that has a forearm contour and build that. You know, so something like that. I had to do something that was a little more ergonomic, in addition to just, you know, so I couldn't even just go buy old guitars that weren't modified some way to make them more
Right.
comfortable.
Is that still with you?
It's not as bad, but I think if I was, but yeah, I still can't play a guitar that isn't shaped in a somewhat ergonomic way. So, you know, I almost all my guitars have a heavy forearm contour.
Yeah. Nice. So how long after you got out of school before you decided, all right, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to build a guitar.
Uh,
And what was the first guitar that you built? Was it a kit or
I
did you go straight from
I
scratch?
built uh, I built a mountain dulcimer or something, you know, out of a kit,
Oh, cool.
and then around the same time, you know, Dan moved back. He'd been overseas for a while, and he'd learned a bunch of this stuff working in guitar shops, right? So, you know, he wasn't afraid to go take a plane to a piece of wood and turn it into a guitar neck, right? Put a spoke shave on and carve a neck out, right? So I built this lap steel, right? Which
Oh,
is,
rad.
which is crazy. Has, marks from the mill still in the back of it. out of some
That's
maple
great.
heartwood. I was doing that, and he's like, it's just not that hard to make a real guitar. You just finish carving out the neck, put a truss rod in it. These things are not that difficult, right? So get a little inspiration to go do that, and then started building from there, and as much as I can do in my spare time.
What a great friend to have around to sort of interject you with the confidence that you may not have otherwise had to jump
Yeah,
wholly
yeah,
in,
because
right?
I was like, I can build a body. It's not that hard. You put a template on, you write it out. But I'm like, oh, neck seems really challenging, and it is, and you have to have special tools. But it's not impossible. There's people that do much harder stuff every day. Um, so
They're not as smart as you even.
and the thing is that to come up with systems to make the stuff easy, right? And that takes
Right.
time, and there's people that repair guitars all the time, and they've got a huge edge in starting to build because they've a lot of the practical skills are the same. People that do fretwork all day every day in a repair shop are going to be better at fretting a guitar. I built
Right.
12 guitars this year, so I did 12 fret jobs. Right? So it'll take me longer to get good at it.
The thing that I am always future fucking myself about with guitar building, so I think, what if I, you know, I'm the worst at, I know the rule measure twice, cut once, but I never actually followed through on that rule. I never follow the rule. So I'm always thinking, what if I was building a guitar and I cut the neck too short and then my bridge was misplaced and then it didn't work because frets, the scale is all off, and uh, there are a million reasons why I'll never build a guitar. Mostly because you know there are already people doing it really well.
Yeah,
I don't need
yeah.
to.
You get good at fixing your mistakes. This is the other part of it,
Right.
right? You figure out how to fix what you didn't do right, and maybe stuff gets paint when you originally planned it not to.
It's funny. I hear this from a lot of builders about getting upping your skill set on fixing
Yes,
mistakes.
yeah, and I just had one that I had to rebuild, and I spent 2 weeks. I really could not get it out of my head how I needed to fix this guitar. It was haunting me, and I fixed it, and then realized I should just build another one. So I'm working on fixing that body.
Right.
So a lot of stuff goes in the burn bin. You see those pictures on Instagram where a builder will have a fire with 6 guitars in it, and that's how that happens. See,
Right.
my dad burns a lot of neck shaped firewood.
uh, so once you got that first guitar under your belt, you were you did you have the bug? Were you caught up? Were you on
Oh
fire? Were
yeah,
you
oh
like,
yeah,
yeah,
oh yeah,
I'm gonna I'm gonna do
yeah.
this? How did you? How long did it take for you to sort of come up with your body shapes?
I probably built for two
And
years before I kind of sat down to do my own original. And I was
what were
thinking,
you doing before?
I did a telly kit. I did, I'd go find some Italian guitar and copy the shape and cut out the templates and
Hmm.
do that. The Ranchita, the one you have, that started out that way. There's a Magnetone guitar from
Yeah.
the 50s that was actually designed by Bigsby,
Yeah.
and I ended up taking that one into drawing it in CAD, and I messed with the dimensions for whatever reason, and so it doesn't match that Magnetone anymore, and
Yeah.
it has a bigger, deeper lower bout. And so yeah, that's how that came about. I think I've done some stuff where like a lot of people probably do, where I take, a couple guitar shapes and I put them on top of each other, and take a little bit from one, a little bit from the other. Um, I've, and kind of went from there, and I designed the Berto shape, which is a single cut with kind of a squared off upper bout,
Right.
and then I kind of took cues from that one on other ones, right? So I had some points on that one, so I've tried to stay with, keeping them a little bit pointy, because people make fun of pointy guitars, so why not build more, build more of them?
Right.
Um, as and so trying to keep with some basic design things and some things I want to do.
Am I to understand that that guitar is named after a taco stand?
Yes, a series of taco stands. So in San Diego, there are probably, at one point there must have been hundreds of these restaurants that were all. I think the original one was Roberto's, and there were a bunch of other, and still are a bunch of other permutations of that. So Umberto's, Roberto's. I think somebody did an article, it's linked to on my website, where there are about 40 different ones running, and it was this guy came and founded this place. It was successful, and then he would spin these off to family members, and then they'd get in some disagreement, and they'd change the name and run it on their own, and so it became
Same
this
recipes.
huge thing. And I think someone got litigious at some point, and so that's dialed back around here. But yeah, for a while. So one of the local radio stations had a promo, and they're saying, you could get name brand, you could go to Taco Bell for Mexican food, or you could, do this, or you could listen to corporate radio, or you could listen to, 91X Bertos. and
Right.
so, and so I said, hey, why not grab that for that guitar? So,
I love
yeah.
that. Uh, when I used to tour through San Diego, we would play at
I
Casbah
meant to look this
always.
up because I've sent it to you before when you talk about it with San
Yeah,
Diego people. I
I
know the
knew I
place you're
was.
talking about.
Is it still there?
Yes, it's still there. I think it's La Posta, La Pasta, La Posta.
Yes,
Yeah,
La Posta. This is this is my favorite burrito I've ever had in my life.
yeah.
I'm sorry that I'm making you talk about burritos
I
on the
did kind of ask
podcast.
for it, right?
Well, it's so good. It's so good. Uh, if I may, it's two giant tortillas, and they create a quesadilla out of this thing. And then they take this full size tortilla quesadilla and they throw all the fixins in the middle, roll it up, and that is the quesadilla is the tortilla. So it's
Hmm.
this like double down deliciousness. There's a cheesy bite of goodness in every bite of burrito. It's called the especial. I remember that
Yeah, it's on my list
because
to
it
get
was
back down
aptly
there. Yeah.
named. Oh, I need to go. I need to get to San Diego if for no other reason to have two. We would pull into town before sound check. We would go there.
Uh huh.
Yeah, and we would buy two
Nice.
each. You what you would do is you couldn't really eat the whole thing. You'd eat half. Yeah,
Hmm.
and then go sound check, and then maybe you'd have half for after the show, and then you had a one of leftovers for the ride out of town the next day. That's how you plan.
Nice.
That's
Yeah.
how you plan a tour. That's good tour management.
Yeah, that's a
That's
24
good
hour
tour
spot too.
management.
So you guys could probably hit that on the way out of after the show also.
Yeah, but if you could go there once, that's good tour management. So how much time when we met 2 years
Hmm.
ago, how how far into this guitar building insanity were you?
A couple years, I think.
Yeah.
I'd already been on. Brian's radar a little bit, just because he and I kind of are into the same kind of wacky old guitars.
Yeah.
And talked a bunch on Instagram. I can't remember if I'd been I'd been out to his I'd been out and seen him in Nashville. And
At the school or at his shop?
he was at they were doing the last couple nights of their school, where his students are building guitars till midnight trying to get stuff out the door and completed at the
Right.
end of the term. And I was in town, and he just said, come check it out. So, I'd hung out with him there. The coolest guy, a very, somebody else who's been, very, people are very good at being enabling in this hobby. Right. You talk to everybody, these guys are all so nice, Doug and Brian and Saul, right? Just really cool people who will share a lot of stuff, and then you can learn a lot from Brian just being around him for a very short amount of time. I watched him teach somebody, I don't know how much he's ever drummed, but I watched one of his students, watched him teach one of his students how to drum on a practice pad. and I learned more about drumming in 3 minutes than I have in my whole life, just watching him teach his kid how to hit a pad in the back of class. He's an amazing guy.
And and a monster player too.
Yeah, for sure.
He is in 2 upcoming videos.
Awesome.
Which I'm pretty excited about. Both one's an 80s song, definite 80s song, and the other one is they're both sort of prototypical songs of each decade.
Mm.
Like if you think of what was the apex of the 80s, that's what this song is. And also the 90s of all of the, the cliches of each of those decades.
Cool.
So good. So good. Oh, do you have plans to make, you have 6 body shapes?
Something like that.
Do you have 6?
Yeah.
That's a pretty good number of guitar shapes to have for what you called a hobby.
Yeah.
That's you don't seem like a person that probably sits on his hands a lot.
No, staying busy, I'm sure you can relate. You keep yourself busy. It keeps you out of your own head and out of your own way.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how successful I am at the latter part of that statement, but
yeah. So
by being busy, I'm in my way a lot. Are you working on any more?
I don't have anything going right now. I think there's more than enough.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. At this point, my focus is just to get better at what I already have. And, different people seem to get excited about different things. So, I think there's something there. And then the other thing is to, on some level, I wanted to do the thing that Saul does and just have one body shape that can be a variety of things. Right. So I can, do a hollow body with something. I can, do a bunch of different permutations with the same core shape.
Have you messed with that at all? Have you built a hollow body?
I've done 2 hollow ranchitas that, that have they're not really built like acoustic guitars at all. They're just hollowed out in the middle with a center block for the bridge.
Oh, did it have a shark fin?
I don't remember if I put shark fins on either of those.
But were there hole?
Oh yeah,
holes?
with the cat's eyes. The cat's eye, the German style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember very well.
Yeah, now. I don't know if you know the German the German arch tops. that are around, that have those cool cat's eyes that were made by, various companies, Hoyer and others, right? And those are super
Yeah.
cool guitars. And so I wanted to do something in that style and not just throw another F hole on. So there's one of those that's in, there's one of those that I screwed up. So a friend has that one. It's actually the best sounding guitar I've built. It has some woodworking mistakes that I could not live with being out in the world with anyone who I didn't trust. But man,
Right.
that guitar sounds good. And then there's another one coming that will have a crazy cool paint job on it, uh, that
Wow.
I'm super excited about. That was actually my first commission, was to do one of those this last year. So that one's getting painted by somebody
Rad.
else right now, and I'm super excited to get that back soon.
I haven't seen that many of your guitars that have gotten paint. Um, do you have you done the paint on
Yeah,
guitars
so that
or
one behind you, that one's the orange sparkle. I did that.
yeah,
I'm perfectly comfortable. It's really hard to be good at painting guitars. I think the
right.
people that do it well specialize in it, and it's their favorite thing. And I think most people, that's the thing they're the most self conscious about, because it is the easiest thing to screw up. And so,
And if you screw up, it doesn't just create the same amount of work. It creates like 3 times as much work.
you just go backwards in time by a lot, right? And so, and
Right.
so on a lot of these guitars that I'm building, for fun, spec guitars, right? And somebody wants to buy it, they see it, they don't mind the paint flaws, great, who cares? But yeah, when
Right.
somebody came to me for a commission, I said, hey, I'm just going to send this to a guy. I'm going to send it to somebody I trust to do a really good job, and they're going to do it. Awesome, you're going to be happy with it. But yeah, you're going to pay for a professional paint job. If I
Right.
painted it, I probably wouldn't charge them any money for that labor or time. Right? So, just
What color is it going to be?
it. I did a white and purple one, a white and purple Berto a few years ago, and
Yeah.
somebody saw that and asked for that on a Ranchita, and so
Oh,
it's
that's
going to
cool.
be white with a bunch of purple, and it's going to be pretty killer. So
Nice.
I'm hoping that'll show up on the Instagram in the next couple weeks, when it comes back from paint. So yeah, that one's going to be fun.
Uh is I've assumed that because of the wood that you're using, you have um stuck with see-through like natural finishes, but is that not the case? Is it also because of the danger?
I use two different kinds of finish.
Yeah.
Yours is all an oil finish, so it's an oil with some urethane mixed in. So it's actually really easy to apply and fix. And that
Is it wipe on?
it is a wipe on. Yeah, you wipe it on real thin, and then you wipe it off right away. It just leaves a little bit of residue, soaks in, gets real nice and hard. You can get it to a pretty good satin shine. Um, that was a tip I got from your buddy Sully, when he did
Huh.
that Luthierist podcast for a while. It was something
Yeah.
that Grover Jackson had clued him onto, and so I'm using that, or a similar product for oil finishes. I use that on necks a lot.
It feels really
Yeah.
nice.
If I'm doing a shiny finish, I do those in a water based poly, which means I can shoot it in my garage, and I can wear a respirator, but I don't have to turn the water heater off,
Right.
and have a big fireball out there. So it's relatively safe. It's easy to clean up, and not toxic. It's not the greatest finish in the world, and it does tend to be a little thicker than I might like. But it does the job, and I'm perfectly happy not poisoning myself uh, with that, right? And
I would be
yeah,
too.
yeah, and I think I can get pretty good results. The flake up there came out great. There's some really nice
Yeah.
pictures of that on Instagram, uh,
Yeah.
and that was not easy. but yeah, it gets nice and shiny, and if I'm doing a color or if I'm using a wood, some of these woods are not the toughest. So I want to put a harder finish on it than the oil. The oil, eventually you'll probably need to repair it, and it's super easy to repair. But it's maybe not the hardest thing, right? Like any oil finish.
I love that. I love that finish. I have a base with a natural oil,
Yeah.
like a oil finish on it as well.
Yeah, and even if I'm doing a bolt neck, I will almost always do the neck in that oil. So I think people like the way that feels.
Yeah.
And when you have a bolt, you don't have any. There's no reason you have to use the same finish on both pieces. So use what people are comfortable with.
I was really, really stoked when you put your website up because it sort of, it indicated, all right, Justin is like, he's kicking the door
Well, that's
open.
Jamie's fault because when you guys talked about those guitars on Golden Shower of Hits, and he's trying to find the website in real time. And
Right.
I said, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got to do this so Jamie can find it. The Jamies of the world can find it. So yeah. Thank you for
Right.
that push. I bought the domain when I sent you the guitar uh, for the roadie relief thing, because I wanted to have that,
Right.
to have that, and then I built the website after that. So you've been an enabler, Mike, in this whole thing. So you know,
I just, I just pushed you down an icy hill is all. You
yeah,
were there. You were at the top of the hill already.
yeah, and at some point I have to find a way to get these guitars out of my living room. They can't just live here.
Right.
So
What do you have planned for? Do you have more commissions, or are you building some inventory, or some of both?
I'm,
W-
I am going to be building a guitar at any point that I can. I think. I sold one through a local shop this year,
Nice.
and that was pretty cool. That the guy just paid up all of his layaway on that today. And then
Awesome.
I had two people reach out for commissions, and they've both been super cool customers, and that's been fun because I'm not going to do something that I don't think is fun, because I'm not going to make money doing this for a while. I don't think so. It's really just, it's got to be something fun. And so when they come to me and they say, yeah, I've been looking at what you're doing for a while. How about you do this and do it this way on this model? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And and then I'm building this quarter tone fretboard lefty for somebody. So that's been real. That's been fun.
A guitar with twice as
Yes,
many
twice as many
frets.
frets.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's a lefty, so I'm not going to be able to tell you how it plays when it's done. You'll have to ask the guy.
uh that's another, like I am the target market for all of these things. I it's a problem. It's a problem. Like the fucking Graphite Necks thing.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of a small miracle that I don't have one. Lately, my thing has also been upright basses. I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna get an upright bass.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get myself a 3/4 upright bass. You can find them for under
Yeah.
$1,000. I just don't have $1,000. So I'm like looking at my record collection. I'm looking at all these things
Uh-huh.
like what can I turn into an upright bass? But every once in a while, like I have a McSwain built me a fretless guitar
Uh-huh.
because he is crazy enough to listen to
Yeah.
me.
So here's my solution to that problem right now is
Stay off the
no.
internet.
No, I built myself recently that little 4-string
Yeah.
fretless just to play slide on. And probably spent less than a month total time on that calendar time, and I just knocked that thing out, threw an oil finish on it, and it's a fretless that I can just use for slide. I think the next one I do like that, and it's a full scale guitar, but it's tiny. And
Right.
I'm probably gonna do another one that has a sitar bridge on it because I want to
Oh,
give that a
that's
try too. And
see.
so I can, if I only do the couple strings, I can use like scraps of wood that couldn't be a real guitar, and I can throw it together real quick for myself, and they won't take up a lot of
Here's the
space.
thing. You're gonna want to be careful. I'm telling you. Here's the thing. You're gonna go through and you're gonna make a bunch of these things that you're like, all right, this is a funny little thing I'm gonna make for myself. You're gonna post a picture, and then Nels Klein is gonna see it, and he's gonna be like, "Whoa, that's interesting. I'm gonna buy that." And then all of a sudden,
Yes,
that like
yeah,
you're
that could
gonna be
happen.
saddled making this one weird thing that you lost interest in after a few weeks.
We'll see. We'll see. The price can always go up.
I guess there are worse problems to
Yeah,
have,
yeah, yeah,
I would say.
yeah. There's a. Have you seen his handle on Instagram is Disco BB, and he's doing those fretless things with the resonator pickups, or not the sustainers. It's really cool
Who?
stuff. They're wild, but I guess he just did a Fretboard Journal podcast, and
Who's doing it?
his handle on Instagram is Disco BB. I don't know his name, but he did kind of a similar thing where he just decided to start building his own sustainers and making these fretless guitars for them. Where he's got a different sustainer for each string. They're wild, and one of these jazz players got a hold of him, and now he's got more more interest than he can handle. It's wild stuff.
So the guitar that I got from McSwain is a fretless gold sparkle fretless flying V with a Fernandez sustainer pickup in it.
Cool.
It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And I just make whale sounds with it. I've used it on a couple of recordings, and it's great for that. But I
Yeah.
could never do it live. I'm not dedicated enough to any craft
Yeah.
to get good enough to play that in front of people. And there are lines on the fretboard. It's still really hard to play fretless
Yeah.
guitar.
Yeah. Those the people that play those instruments spend a lot of time getting that intonation down. There's
I've
a reason that frets were put on a bass, right? That's what made
Yeah,
Leo
man.
his money.
Yeah. You think that's where he really made his money?
He made his money a lot of places, but
Yeah, he did.
that's probably the most important instrument he came out with, right? That's the Fender bass on the Union card. I think that's a pretty important development.
People are credited on
Yeah,
records as playing the Fender bass. No one is credited
hmm
as playing the Ludwig
yeah,
drums,
it's true. It's
the
true.
Pearl
Yeah,
drums, the Fender bass.
yeah, and so many recordings in the 50s and 60s don't happen without that thing. Don't sound the same, right?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Speaking of him, excuse me. Speaking of him, he was like a production visionary, this guy, right?
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. I think
I
his
mean,
primary thing was being fearless about making a manufacturable instrument, and he didn't care that people made fun of it, called it a canoe paddle. Right? He was going to do it. He was going to do it in a way that made him money. Right? I don't think anybody else in that scene was as dedicated to doing that because
I mean,
Bigsby was the innovator. Right? He was the guy who came up with it all and made it happen the first time. And those are works of art. Those Bigsby guitars.
much more eloquent
A
and
Telecaster is
elegant.
a Telecaster is a tool, and a
Right.
very, very good one for what it does. Right. And it was not, and he had this, hey, I'm just going to put shiny colors on these. I don't, they don't need to be, high fashion. They don't need to go on I don't need to make it to look like what's been on a jazz bandstand for decades. I'm just going to make it. People are going to like it, because he did know those musicians. He played, he went and hung out with those guys and knew what they wanted. And that I think was important. And he was doing that in a way that nobody else down there was doing it. And they're well built and they're ergonomic, fairly. The Stratocaster very
Did
much
people
so.
really make fun of the Telecaster when it came out? Like they made fun
The
of the
the
Steinberger?
Gibson guys absolutely called it a canoe paddle, and at the NAMM show when they saw it, and didn't think it would amount to much. And they spent the next 10 years chasing Leo and all that stuff.
Right. I think that original snakehead telly with the, like not the big control
Mm-hmm.
panel,
Yeah,
like whatever the piece of metal, and then the funny little bridge. I just think it's the coolest.
yeah,
I think that that's almost cooler than the Telecaster as we know it, to, the famous image that you conjure up in your mind
yeah.
when you think of a
Well,
Telecaster.
that it's got too big a pick guard on it. The Telly, right? There's no reason for that. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't even cover anything. It
Right.
just covers one little route. All right. So
Right.
yeah, it was. I think it was cooler, that first one, and it kind of gotten back to that with the Carbonita, right? That's kind of a
Right.
similar look. Yeah.
So the reason that I started talking about him is, do you have any ambitions to, like, what is your you're like, you don't need for this to happen. You're gainfully employed.
Yeah, I think that
You're in technology wizardry.
for the meantime, for the foreseeable future, I think 10 to 12 guitars a year built by hand is really what I want to do. I
Yeah.
think I'm I don't want to have a big production. I'm not really interested in making this something that's a lot of work, that's a lot of production, right? I want it to be a handmade hobby stuff with my hands, shaping wood into something, in that way, right? I think that's kind of where it's going to be. Does it become a real company? Well, that kind of depends if anyone is interested,
Right.
and
It didn't
wants what I
stop me in
have.
couch riffs.
Right, right. um so very much it's I do these because I want to, and I'd like and I probably should get better at figuring out how to get these things more visible and have people interested in them. But I don't think there's going to be a flood of them, or a company, or a bunch of them getting run off on a CNC anytime soon.
Right.
I think it'll stay handmade until it becomes obvious that it could replace other forms of income, which could take a very long time, right? And
Sure.
I definitely want to. It's definitely something I want to be doing by hand on some level, for the foreseeable future.
Well, you're doing a cool thing. They're insanely cool guitars. And I mean, I think the more people see them, the more people are going to be interested. So, I think that whatever your greatest, it seems like you have a modest ambition about it, but I think whatever your greatest ambition is for it, it's fully achievable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd certainly like to be making these and getting them played. It's a weird time to be trying to do that right now, right? With people not playing, but they're out there and people can find them, which is cool.
I wanted to ask you about that baritone that I saw Andrew playing.
Yeah,
Andrew McKay.
yeah. That
There's a video of him playing baritone on your website.
Yeah, that is kind of a cool pandemic thing, that the very first time one of my guitars gets played on stage, it's at a show at a great venue with a 7 camera setup in HD, right? That is a weird thing that just doesn't happen for most people. So it was
That's
really
pretty
cool
good.
that Andrew had that. He had that gig, and I said, "Hey," he was really into that shape, that Isabel with the neck through, um, and he had the prototype, the first one I built, and was goofing off with it. And I said, "Hey, you should check out the baritone." And he we swapped guitars, and he still has that one, and he
Rad.
used it for that gig. I don't know if he's done much else with it. Uh, Hopefully, he can gig again at some point. Uh,
Did you guys meet at the satellite shop?
I did not.
At
He lives down the street from my work, so I just drove
Oh,
over to his
nice.
house, and well, we may exchange it outside.
Yeah. Uh-oh. What is that sound? I think there's fireworks, but it was like too consistent to be fireworks. It could have been a machine gun.
Really.
A lot of rednecks up
Yeah,
here.
we've gotten a lot of fireworks this over the holiday.
You know who doesn't like fireworks?
Those dogs. It sounds like.
Mr.
Mm.
Big. He's not into it because he's the boss
Mm.
of the neighborhood, don't you know? Have you built more baritones?
I have another one of my first builds was a baritone, because it was, this all started as filling in things that I couldn't buy, right? That I did, either didn't
Right.
have the money, or there wasn't a product I really wanted to go buy out there. And so I built a baritone that yeah, it needs work. It's an old build. And that second one that Andrew has, yeah, that was the other one. So
What a funny early guitar to build.
yeah, I mean, I think that I was looking at what was out there, and there wasn't something that was obvious, that I was that was like, this is the one to go buy. So do it myself. I was like, maybe the
Right.
third build I did, third or fourth.
Wow.
Yeah, and that one actually turned out pretty well.
It's super cool looking.
Yeah,
Yeah. Nicely done.
yeah. The one Andrew had, I did about a year ago. That's much more recent and more
Oh, that I
ambitious.
got it.
Yeah, that one's good.
Right.
That one's got a 5-piece neck, I think. That's not.
5.
Yeah. So that 5-piece neck through, that was not an early build. That was a lot of work.
Right. How when you are going through, I mean it's a crazy process. You build a whole guitar and you get to the end and you look at it and you can either say, okay, if this is great, and then everything on the spectrum down from there, right? You
For
can look
sure.
at it and say, okay, this I messed up. Next time I'll get him. It's almost like like a guitar build is like a season of sports. It's like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, all right,
Yeah.
well, got to rehab and get him next
Yeah,
time.
and if you're building a lot, like somebody who pretends that this is a job when it really is, like, so I probably have 5 builds going, right? Same as you with your videos, right? You have all these things in the
You have 5
percolator at the
builds
same
happening
time,
right
right?
now. Right.
Yes,
So you can
yes,
adjust
and
on
so
the
they're all in
fly.
different stages. So if I found out I'm doing something wrong, right, I've got to fix it on the next 3 before I can start the new one, right? So yeah, there's that. There's like, oh no, I messed that up, and now I've got to fix it 3 more times. But but you get better slowly, and you know power through it.
Right.
And that's really
Do you
what I
think
want to work on in the next, year, is really making them more consistently playable and trying to get closer to, the thing that I want when I start. I want to try to be closer to hitting the exact specs of, how big the neck is, how, the
right?
right feel, the right shape when I start a carve, right? And, trying to dial that in so it's consistent, and it's what I like every time, because I can make them all work. They will all be
Right.
playable when I'm done, but there may be more or less work to get there, and I'd like there to be less.
Are there tools that you look like you're looking at the next year and you think, all right, the next tool that I want in order to like make this process better or smoother or whatever?
Yeah, not so
Uh,
much a tool as like the order of operations. So um, I've got a laser cutter, and so I use CAD and I use the high tech stuff to make the templates that I then use to make things the old fashioned way. So so instead of so it used to be, Leo would go make these templates and he might spend years getting the templates right, and then he could build every guitar the same every time, right? So I can shorten out that making the template part of it. And
mm-hmm.
so then the question is, am I properly allowing for the tolerances of my equipment, right? So when I go and I put that template on the router, do I lose a 16th of an inch somewhere that ends up affecting the final shape, right? So I want to try to
Right.
dial all that stuff out, to get the vision that's in the computer when I start to into the hand built thing in an efficient way.
What sort of things will affect that?
Just real simple stuff, like is how you hold down the template, or am I using tape, or am I using screws? Are my bits
Right.
right? The way that the template bits work is there's a little bearing on the top that rides against the edge of the template, and then you're cutting all the wood below it. It matches that exact size. So am I fixing that template down perfectly? Is it in is it in the right place? Am I oversizing things by enough to make up for the width of the laser beam cutting out my template? Those are the little details that have to get worked out.
Are you able to cut pick guards and other things with that
Yeah,
laser
the pick
cutter?
guards and the plastic, any like this is Formica, right, from
Yeah.
Home Depot. Yeah, I can cut that out. I can cut the hole for the switch. I can do the back plates. So that stuff's all really
Right.
easy. And so I can make the router template that's this exact size, and then make this thing slightly undersized to fit in perfectly, right? So the laser does all that stuff. I also use the laser to mark the fret locations before I go take them to a miter saw and cut them out. So I can I
Nice.
don't have to, do that math by hand or print it out on paper like I used to. So I can
Right.
essentially draw the fretboard on the piece of wood and then cut it out.
And because it's not laser cutting, you're using a saw. You so there's tolerance there as well,
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, the fret saw is a nice thin is a thin saw, and then you've got a miter, and so I just line the piece of wood up inside the miter and drag the saw right across the line that the laser draws.
Man, I would fuck this up so bad if I tried this. I'm so glad that there are people like yourself doing it.
Yeah, and people are people are really good about sharing this technique. I learned a lot listening to Sully and Paul Roney and the other guys on that podcast. And people will share a lot of stuff. People are very cool in this industry. And it's because we know that the same guys are going to buy a bunch of guitars from a bunch of different people, right?
Right.
One of the guys I'm building for now, he's had stuff built by great builders before, and so it's pretty cool to just even be considered, that somebody trusts me with
That's
their
awesome,
money
man.
and time. But yeah, people are very cool about stuff. I can ask Doug a question, Doug Cower, and he'll he'll be very giving. A lot of other people will. Yeah, it's a cool thing.
The music industry, the MI or music instrument industry, is pretty crazy that way. I've said this publicly before. I work in the coffee industry, and people are mostly real cocks in that industry. They everyone thinks that they've reinvented, you know, holy water,
Yeah,
and really they're just
yeah,
cooks. Like
yeah,
they're getting their produce from, you know, a handful of, well, from a lot of different places and different farmers, and
yeah.
there's a lot to the process, but you know, it's not it's not like wizardry, you know,
Hmm.
but people treat it like real secretively. It's insane.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So I was
I think
bowled over when I heard people sharing information like this.
yeah. You hear that the craft beer guys talk about it this way. You know that they're that they have good relationships with their competitors and things, and I think it's because people will go and drink a different beer every night. They'll go pick up and play a different guitar
Right.
every night. If
Right.
the few people that are lucky enough to be able to afford these boutique instruments from the people I consider to be the best in this business, they're probably not just buying one. They have the bug. And so you really want the whole craft to be better. You want your competitors to be good, so that you know because the guy that buys their guitar this week could buy yours next week, right? It's
And also, the better everyone gets, the better everyone
Yeah,
gets,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And if I had some great technique, I would happily share it. I've I I'm still learning.
Here's a question, and I'm not presuming that I know how technical your day job is, but assuming that it's relatively
Hmm.
technical and not and you're not running saws, did you choose to get in? It seems like a more obvious hobby for you to get into might have been making pedals, amps, or even DSP um, effects
Yeah,
pedals. But uh, do you think that you were drawn to building guitars because it was such a departure from what you do during your day job?
I think, yeah, that was a big part of it. I wanted to do the other thing that was that it was completely under my control and completely hands on,
Right,
right? When you build in any kind of an industrial environment, right? It's a team thing, it's a process thing. There are rules, there are guidelines, there are deadlines, all these things that you don't have to deal with when you're just making art, right?
right,
And that was a big part of it. The other thing I have had access to, and probably the thing from my work that has the most impact on my guitar building, is that I'm around really smart mechanical engineers on a regular basis. Because when you're doing optical engineering, the the stuff that holds the lenses or the mirrors is as important as the lenses and mirrors. And so those two disciplines end up working a lot together. And so I've worked with some very brilliant engineers, very smart people,
right.
and you just pick up a thing here or there that becomes very important. That's like you know a 3-bolt neck. Guitar people hate these, right? It's perfectly stable. You have 3 points. You can hold something down. It's fine. It's
Right.
convenient. It's
Especially
easy.
if they're well placed,
Right.
right?
Uh, um,
Probably don't want to go three in a line.
yeah, but if you do the neck pocket right, you only need one screw.
Right.
so, I think, if you want to hold a plate flat against another surface, right, you only put 3 contact points down. And because then it can't rock. It has 3 points it sits on, and it's so things like that. You pick up from stuff. Just a lot of finding the right part is knowing what it's called, so I can go take something I see into you know, some of these guys that have worked for 30, 40 years, I can say, what is this thing? And then if I know the name, I can go find it and I can use it. Right. But if you don't have that information, you know, you don't
Right.
know. These catalogs are huge sometimes. Right. And you know, just because people don't use it on guitars now doesn't mean that they shouldn't. Right.
Right.
So it's been an asset to learn things about materials, about you know, how mechanical things should be put together from people who are really smart. And so I have had that luxury. Um, and you know, I'm not a big electronics person. I don't, you know, I know a little bit here and there. I know enough to be dangerous, but it's not, you know, but amps. I would have to learn stuff to do amps and pedals. And
Right.
you know, it's somewhat easier to, and guitars are tactile things, right? They're, you know, you're interacting with them in a different way that I very much enjoy watching something become something. You know, when you take a body and you cut it out and then you round the edges, all of a sudden it starts looking like a guitar instead of a hunk of wood. That's very, very satisfying. You know,
Right.
I think moving a couple of resistors around might not do it for me. And I'm glad it does for a lot of people because you know, I buy too many pedals like everybody else. um, but it really is the tactile thing, and I want to build something that, you know, is ergonomic and still flashy and fun, and you know, a tangible thing at the end you know, instead of something that's less, you know, where you're going to go make 100 of them that are exactly the same. Right.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, I am as pleased as a pig in shit with this little bass.
I'm glad you like it. I was worried the neck carve would be off or something, you know,
No, it's
because
so
I thought
great,
I did not
man.
want to let you know about it at all till it was in the mail.
I
So
mean, right up until I pulled it out of the gig, I mean, and also, by the way, thank you. It came in an awesome bag, and there's a strap in it. Uh, you put my favorite strap locks on it.
yeah, you
I
know,
mean,
I didn't want to give you those. I really like using those flush mount strap lock holes, but I know that not everybody is a Dunlop strap person, so I had to
they're
include
super
something.
cool.
And I really like those
So cool.
Mother Mary Serape straps. They're my
Really,
favorite.
really, really cool.
Yeah.
And you know, when I'm not wearing a hoodie, I'm a flannel guy. And so, you know, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad that
Uh,
I knew you wanted a big substantial neck. You and Andrew both like the like a lot of wood there, so
yeah, I can't thank you enough.
yeah, I'm
I
glad you're
really,
happy with it. It
I'm
makes me happy.
blown away.
Hope I see it in some
Uh,
videos down the road. And
you, oh, you for sure
yeah,
will. I would encourage um, anyone listening and watching to go follow Motander guitars and check out your builds. I just think I think they're super super cool, especially if you're looking for something that is not a jazz bass or not, you know, whatever, not a Telecaster. There definitely harkens to the Atomic Age, but
yeah,
mid-century Atomic Age, Jetsons,
yeah.
fun
They're
time
classic era
guitars.
guitarists for sure. They have that DNA. You know, you know it's an electric guitar when you look at it. There's there's no question
Yeah,
there, right? But they are different, and I try, and they're going to be comfortable
yeah,
to play. That's the other thing I try to do with them
for sure.
for lots of different players. A lot of them are relatively small, comfortable. You know, you're not gonna blow your shoulder out playing any of them.
Right. Good. Well, listen, man. Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too. Happy birthday.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
mine's tomorrow,
Thank you.
so I got
Thank you.
this.
Thank you. Is that
Yeah,
right?
it is. So,
New Year's Day?
mm-hmm.
Tomorrow is also Ian Fowles' birthday. I'm trying to think. I think you guys might be the only two New Year's Day people that I know, but I'm not sure. You never know. We all got it bad.
Yeah.
But Christmas people got it the worst.
They do.
People born on Christmas, other than Jesus, we're still celebrating that guy's birthday. He really lucked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what. This guy back here was a real lighthouse.
Yeah, I'm glad you're digging it. That makes me happy. Put a lot of time into that, and I'm happy that it's in a good place and it's going to do some fun stuff for you.
I'm gonna have to make a little birthday video with that thing. Post it up, little like one of these little dorky, what do you call them? Reels. I'm gonna make a reel tomorrow for you.
All right.
Yeah. Well, listen. Hey, do you have any photographs of you with your guitars?
I will try to rig something up. Try to get you something.
You gotta have some stuff for your website.
Yeah, I probably do.
Here I go, pushing you down the hill again. Mm-hmm. You know the routine. I take them and cut them up and whatever. Put the fucking galaxy behind you or whatever. If you can send me a couple photos that I could cut up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'm gonna stop recording now. Actually, I've got this control panel in front of me, and I'm always so worried because there's one that says stop, and one says leave, and this is ridiculous. Clearly, I didn't go to more than 2 quarters of community college, but I'm always like, which one do I push first? And I'll push stop recording.